So if a pen and paper is your thing, a notepad, or just listening, whatever works for you, grab it and let's get started. So first things first, how to specialize without a facility using a consult-based model. So over the years, I've created a human-first model, and that is handler-centered assessment and planning, starting with client-led story of daily life and disability, identify key functional challenges and environments, homework, transit kind of stuff, and translate these into possible service dog task ideas and training priorities. Now, I won't go too deep into it, but the general framework for most organizations is not just about the waiting list, but it's also about they are generally focused, they niche down as well. So it's, just for veterans or it's just for PTSD or just for the blind, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in with owner training. Um, yes, we specialize in certain things, but the reason it's handler centered is more so because with program dogs, they take the dogs and they match it to the human, and the human generally gets anywhere from a week to a month worth of training, and then they do get some support depending on the organization throughout. But from my experience and from what I've heard from other clients, they don't get enough support, and that's part of the problem. And a lot of these organizations are overrun with people, and that's why the waiting list is so long. So I'm not criticizing them, I'm just saying it's a difference. So with this handler-centered approach and human-first approach, what we're doing is we are having intake and goal setting sessions online or in person, using structural intake form, history routine, access barriers. We co-create 3 to 5 clear, measurable team goals, and we set a realistic timeline and check-in schedule. And so we are focused on the owner in the owner training, not just the DARD training. Um, and the handler's skills. We want to teach them the core mechanics, the marking, the timing, the reinforcement, delivery, practice advocacy and disability etiquette with them, do role plays, assign simple at-home drills to build handler fluency. Because a lot of people don't realize it, but even with program dogs, they tend, no, I won't say tend, they can often retire early because something happens and the handler doesn't know enough about dog training in order to handle it properly. And so then the dog doesn't get what it needs to get over it and work through it and be able to work again. And so it ends up washing out or retiring early. With the human first approach, as a service dog specialist, you are training the owner trainers to be trainers. Obviously, depending on your years of knowledge and everything, some of you in here, like you said, 20, 25 years, you can't cram all that into one person, obviously. But we want to teach them how to work through things so that when we're not around, they're they and their dog have a better chance of succeeding because they will know how to work through those things. So we use checklists, templates, and groups for follow-up, sending brief session recaps plus daily practice checklists. Use standard templates to track service dog tasks and public outings when they get to that point, and offer small group Q&A or online peer support for troubleshooting. So, to give you a sneak peek inside the Service Dog Mastery Program that I told you I would talk about at the end, it is the human first system. I've created the client intake questions template, so you're not winging it. If you're someone who hasn't worked with disabled people before, I also talk about the different language and the inner community kind of thing about it. Some people prefer to, for example, be called, um, a disabled person, and some people would rather have it be person first language. So I have notes in there like that, and I have questions you can ask respectfully and things like that. So the disability spectrum and common needs quick guide. You don't need to be a doctor to connect daily life to tasks. Um, it you can take what the issues are and you can with it, obviously not for everything under the sun, but for a lot of things you can connect daily life issues with a task that can help with those disability issues. I have a full class showing how to go from intake to daily life to service dog task ideas. So, for example, a lot of people have a hard time doing longer training sessions, especially on a bad day, or getting exercise for their dog. So, one of my tips and tricks is something I do with my dog. So, uh, I know it's bad, but I'm also autistic and very food sensitive, so most of my meals come in the microwave, okay? So, during the time my food is in the microwave, I'm playing ball or training with my dog. And so that's 2.5, 3 minutes. As trainers, we know that short sessions can work really well along with repetitions. So if I eat 3 times a day, that's a minimum of 3 short training sessions. With my particular disabilities, I can do that. That's just one example of how I take dead time in a schedule and turn it into mini training sessions that are accessible for um, my level and other people that have a similar level of disabilities to I do. And by level, I don't mean better or worse. I just mean more or less physically able to do something, but even people that, have less hand movement than I do or something, there are different ways to get around different things. And I go into that in more detail in the course. So you just need a plan that works. So, for example, with David, we did what I do with teams, and we started with the handler's life. What did mornings look like? Where did things break down? And what needed to change first? And he said that after applying what I learned, my wild dog, as he called him, became a model citizen. People started asking me for training advice. He didn't need a facility to do that, just a handler-centered plan. Okay. And his dog was awesome, but he was a very, very hyper dog that needed a lot of activity. Now, thankfully, David was able to give him that activity that he needed, but he didn't know how to channel that energy and balance the training and all those kinds of things. So we started out with David's life, and we worked the training in David's life so that the dog got what it needed and David got what he needed.